What if I told you there's a key capable of transforming not just how you see the world, but how the world responds to you? This isn't magic. It's not luck. And it's definitely not some fleeting illusion. What we're talking about is a mindset that Carl Jung, one of the greatest explorers of the human psyche, began to understand as he dove deep into the mysteries of the unconscious mind. Imagine living each day with the unwavering belief that everything, yes, even the mistakes, the losses, and the unexpected setbacks, is actually part of a perfect plan designed to support your personal growth. Most people, unfortunately, are trapped in a cycle of fear, doubt, and resistance. They see life as a series of external forces working against their desires, rather than for them. But Jung noticed something that few people stop to realize. Reality isn't some fixed, rigid backdrop that you have no control over. It's a fluid, responsive mirror of what lives inside of you. And once you begin to grasp this idea, everything changes. Suddenly, the problems that once felt overwhelming become teachers in disguise, guiding you, not punishing you. Challenges stop looking like random obstacles and instead feel like meaningful invitations, calling you to explore the parts of yourself you've ignored, denied, or forgotten. And more than that, you begin to witness a strange and powerful synchronicity. Events, people, and opportunities start to align in ways that seem almost too perfect to be coincidence. This isn't wishful thinking or fantasy. It's a psychological truth so profound that it's echoed across centuries, cultures, and worldviews. Jung devoted his life to exploring how the unconscious mind shapes perception and how perception, in turn, reshapes reality. From this understanding, a powerful principle emerges. Live as if everything is always working out in your favor. But here's the crucial part. This isn't about pretending to be happy or clinging to shallow positivity. It's about making a conscious choice, a deep internal decision, to believe that there's an intelligent force quietly orchestrating your life. A force that supports you, but only when you're willing to meet it halfway. That doesn't mean there won't be pain, setbacks, or moments of uncertainty. It means that when they come, you'll face them with a new lens, as pieces of a greater puzzle that only begins to make sense when you're ready to integrate every part of who you are. And that's exactly what we're going to explore from this point forward. To truly understand what it means to live as if everything is always working in your favor, you must first understand how your mind operates, far beyond the limits of logic or conscious thought. The unconscious, this vast, hidden landscape that Jung spent his life exploring, isn't just a storage space for forgotten memories or buried trauma. It's a living, breathing field that's constantly interacting with your outer world, even when you don't realize it. Everything you believe, whether you're aware of it or not only shapes your decisions, but actually influences how reality presents itself to you. And here's where things get truly mind-opening. Your life isn't just a reflection of events. It's a mirror of your deepest beliefs, both the ones you know and the ones hidden beneath the surface. When you're stuck in a mindset of fear, lack, or self-doubt, your psyche starts filtering the world in a way that only allows you to see threats, problems, and limitations. It's like wearing glasses with distorted lenses. Everything you see confirms the belief that life is hard, things never work out, and the world is against you. And this isn't mysticism, it's neuroscience intertwined with deep psychology. Your brain, in an effort to conserve energy, defaults to familiar patterns rather than creating new pathways. It sticks to what it already knows, even if those beliefs are hurting you. And that's how you end up repeating the same cycles, encountering the same types of problems, and reliving the same disappointments, as if trapped inside a maze built by your own perception. But the reverse is also true. And that's where the real magic, if we can call it that, begins to unfold. When you begin, deliberately and consistently, to live as if everything always works out for you, something profound happens deep within your psyche. Your unconscious receives a new message, a new signal. The world is full of possibility. You are capable. Doors open. Solutions appear. Life supports you. From that point on, your mental filters start to shift. You begin noticing opportunities that used to be invisible. You attract people who resonate with this new frequency. Even challenges start to make sense in a larger context of personal evolution, not punishment. Your external reality begins, little by little, to reorganize itself according to this new internal programming. Not because the world itself changed, but because you changed the way you engage with it. When Jung studied synchronicities, he observed what felt like a mysterious dialogue between inner and outer worlds, reality responding not only to your actions, but to your inner state of mind, your emotions, and your soul. And that's exactly what happens when you adopt the mindset of living as if everything is working in your favor. It's not blind optimism, it's a complete energetic, psychological, and behavioral recalibration. In this state, you stop operating from fear, scarcity, and doubt. You shift into a space of trust, expansion, and openness. Suddenly, doors that once seemed sealed shut begin to open. Paths that felt blocked start to unfold naturally. Opportunities appear from places you never would have expected. And the most surprising part? These changes don't just come from the outside. They begin within, from the moment you decide to show up to life differently. Your posture shifts. Your perspective sharpens. Your energy becomes magnetic. And because of that, your choices become more aligned, more intentional, and more powerful. You stop saying yes to what doesn't feel right. You begin attracting people who reflect your core values. Even your so-called failures start revealing themselves as divine redirections. In this process, your confidence grows, not because everything goes perfectly, but because you begin to trust deeply that even when things don't go your way, they're still guiding you to where you're meant to be. And that's when life stops feeling like a random string of events and starts becoming a beautifully orchestrated journey, where every piece, every encounter, every challenge, and every win is part of a bigger story that only makes sense once you've decided to live from the inside out. Absolutely consistent. To act as if everything always works out is not about avoiding discomfort, running away from problems, or pretending that everything is perfect. On the contrary, it's about developing such a deep trust in life's intelligence that you learn to embrace even what looks like a mistake, a loss, or rejection, because somehow, deep down, you already know that all of it will eventually rearrange itself in your favor. Not as some mystical promise, but as a direct reflection of your ability to align internally with who you truly are. But there's a crucial point that must be deeply understood for this mindset to become real, tangible, and sustainable in your life. Acting as if everything always works out isn't just putting on a mask of positivity or hiding behind pretty phrases to avoid facing your own shadows. Jung made this very clear in his work. The process of individuation, the path to becoming who you really are, necessarily involves honestly confronting everything you've denied, rejected, or hidden from yourself. This includes fears, traumas, insecurities, self-sabotaging patterns, and even the parts you judged as weak, shameful, or unworthy. When we talk about living from the mindset that everything works out, we're not talking about denying pain, but learning to see it in a new light, where even pain has a sacred place in your transformation process. What really stops most people from living in this flow isn't external events, but unresolved internal conflicts. Whenever you notice yourself reacting with resistance, fear, anxiety, or helplessness, it's not the world's fault or circumstances. It's a direct reflection of parts inside you that haven't yet been seen, accepted, and integrated. It's as if your psyche is constantly trying to call you back inside, showing you through external challenges exactly what needs healing and transformation. And here lies the true power of this principle. When you start to position yourself as someone who deeply believes that everything conspires in your favor, even the hardest moments become gateways to healing, expansion, and the creation of a much more authentic version of yourself. As this understanding grows stronger, you begin to see that life isn't happening against you or by random chance, it's happening for you. Every challenge that arises is not punishment but an invitation. Every obstacle isn't a dead end but a disguised opportunity for growth. And every apparent failure is not the end but an invisible bridge, leading you exactly where you need to be, even if your rational mind can't grasp this now. In this state of awareness, anxiety begins to dissolve because you no longer need to control everything. Fear loses its grip because you understand that nothing happens by accident, and life, once seen as a constant battle, starts transforming into a fertile ground of possibilities where every step, every choice, and every experience aligns with the natural flow of your own evolution. When you truly begin to embody this mindset, that everything always works out for you, something powerful starts happening behind the scenes in your psyche. Your nervous system, which once lived in a constant state of alert, begins to relax. The automatic fight, flight, or freeze reactions that once dominated your responses to challenges are replaced by a more conscious, centered, and open presence to possibilities. And this is no small detail. In practice, this means you begin to access mental and emotional states that allow you to make decisions that are far more aligned, intuitive, and confident, even when external reality still seems unchanged. You no longer wait for the world to prove to you that it's safe, possible, or viable. You choose from within to live as if it already is true. And paradoxically, it's this very choice that makes reality begin to shape itself around this new inner state. The more you stay in this vibration, the more what you once called coincidences turns into routine. People show up in your life exactly when you need them. Opportunities that seemed impossible appear almost magically. Doors that once seemed closed swing wide open, as if something beyond logic is guiding, leading, and supporting you. Jung called this phenomenon synchronicity, and to understand it is to realize that life is constantly communicating with you, responding to your frequency, your beliefs, and most importantly, the quality of your presence in the world. But here's something few truly get. This state is not passive. It's not about folding your arms and waiting for everything to fall from the sky. On the contrary, it's an invitation to inspired action, where every step you take is supported by a confidence so deep that even apparent mistakes become precise moves within a much greater flow. And this is where you begin to grasp one of the greatest truths Jung shared throughout his work. External reality is not separate from internal reality. There are two sides of the same coin. When you change inside, the world inevitably changes outside. And this change doesn't have to be forced, fought for, or ripped out through suffering. It happens naturally, organically, as an inevitable reflection of your own state of being. Acting as if everything always works out doesn't mean ignoring risks, challenges, or uncertainties. It means choosing to move from a place where you already know, deep in your soul, that whatever the outcome, it will be part of a much bigger plan, one that inevitably leads you toward your own growth, expansion, and fulfillment. As you advance in this practice, you start to see that this principle isn't limited to big decisions or crucial life moments. It shows up most vividly in the small details, the seemingly ordinary choices of daily life, the conversations you have, the way you wake up in the morning, the energy you put into each thought, each word, each action. Living as if everything always works out becomes a lifestyle, a constant vibration that shapes not only your worldview, but also how the world itself responds to you. And this is exactly the moment when something clicks inside you, something that, once seen, can never be unseen. You realize that you were never just a victim of chance or at the mercy of uncontrollable external forces. In truth, you have always been, and always will be, the co-creator of your reality. But to live from this truth, you need to cultivate something Carl Jung saw as essential in the path of becoming whole: the radical courage to truly know yourself. Because the deeper you align with this mindset that everything works out, the more life challenges you to face your blind spots, those hidden, unconscious patterns that quietly try to pull you back into old loops. And make no mistake, they will show up. They'll appear in the form of tough situations, repeated experiences that feel all too familiar, or overwhelming emotions that drag you back into fear, resistance, or pain you thought you'd left behind. But here's the key difference now. What once held you hostage now becomes your teacher. Where you once panicked, now you respond with awareness. And that simple shift, seeing your challenges through the lens of growth instead of defeat, changes absolutely everything. It's as if life stops testing you to break you and starts shaping you, preparing you, refining you for deeper levels of fulfillment, expansion, and authenticity. Because living as if everything always works out doesn't mean believing that nothing difficult will ever happen. On the contrary, it means building such a deep relationship with life that even the chaos, the setbacks, and the pain are seen as expressions of a greater intelligence, one that's guiding you, shaping you, and leading you to become exactly who you're meant to be. And when that understanding hits you not just in your head, but in your body and soul, something shifts forever. Doubt loses its grip. Desperation fades. Resistance dissolves. What's left is a quiet, steady confidence. A sense of trust that no matter what happens, you're exactly where you need to be. And that's when you begin to taste something few people ever dare to truly experience, that a state of inner coherence so powerful that what's happening outside of you no longer has the power to pull you off center. Because deep down, some part of you knows that even if things seem out of sync, it's all part of a bigger alignment, a web of unseen forces quietly working in your favor. And this awareness doesn't make you passive. In fact, it makes you more engaged than ever, just from a completely different place. Now, you're not acting from fear, urgency, or the need to control. You're acting from clarity, from trust, from surrender. And that blend of calm presence and intentional action starts producing results that, to others, may look like miracles, but to you, are simply the natural outcome of living in alignment with who you really are. At this point, something truly extraordinary begins to unfold. What once felt out of reach starts to come into form. Projects that were stuck start gaining momentum. Relationships shift, healing old wounds and opening space for deeper, more authentic connection. Money, once a source of stress, begins to flow from unexpected places, not because you're chasing it, but because you're no longer vibrating in lack, but in abundance. And even more valuable than all of that, you begin to notice a change within yourself that's priceless. A peace that doesn't depend on circumstances, a happiness that's no longer tied to outcomes, a strength that anchors you regardless of what's happening out there. And it's here, in this grounded, embodied place, that you finally see what this mindset is really about. It's not a mental trick. It's not some sweet-sounding fantasy. It's not a way to avoid pain. It's the purest expression of a consciousness that's awake, aligned, and attuned to the subtle laws that govern both the human psyche and the universe itself. You start to see that reality isn't something happening to you. It's something responding to you. And the more you stay in this energy, the more the world reflects it right back. Flow, synchronicity, growth, expansion. Life stops feeling like a battleground and becomes something sacred, a stage where you finally step into the role of conscious creator of your own experience. And in this place, something even more subtle, and yet even more powerful, starts to reveal itself. You realize that the things you once chased so desperately, validation, recognition, love, safety, success, no longer weigh on you the same way. Because now, you don't just know intellectually, but feel in your being that everything you ever longed for was never outside you. It was always within you, patiently waiting for the moment you'd stop searching outward and finally choose to live from the inside out. The feeling of scarcity fades away, not because all your external circumstances have suddenly aligned perfectly, but because your focus has shifted. Instead of fixating on what's missing, your attention roots itself deeply in what already is, in what's already present. Ironically, it's this very state of full presence and genuine gratitude that starts attracting even more of what once seemed so far out of reach. From here, even the idea of right or wrong begins to dissolve. You no longer live trapped in the rigid duality of success and failure, winning and losing, gaining and losing. What remains are experiences, each one filled with meaning, lessons, and opportunities for growth. You realize that even what looked like mistakes or stumbles when seen through this new lens, are actually essential pieces in your journey of growth and alignment with your truest self. And this understanding isn't just a light intellectual insight. It brings a deep, visceral liberation. Because finally, you stop punishing yourself, judging yourself, and sabotaging yourself. You break free from that exhausting cycle of self-criticism and allow yourself to live, to experience, to learn, to create, and above all, to trust. And here lies perhaps one of the greatest gifts of this path. You don't just begin to live a life that flows with more ease, purpose, and meaning. You also become a positive, almost magnetic influence on those around you. Your own transformation starts to ripple out to your family, friends, colleagues, and partners. Not because you try to change anyone, but because your very presence, now aligned, coherent, and vibrating at this frequency of trust and surrender, naturally inspires others to do the same. Effortlessly, you become a catalyst for transformation, a living reflection of what's possible when someone dares to align deeply with themselves, their truth, their essence, and, by extension, with life itself. And that, without a doubt, is one of the greatest gifts anyone can experience. When you finally understand, feel, and embody this principle, life never goes back to the way it was before. Because once you realize that acting as if everything is always working out isn't some comforting illusion, but a conscious alliance with the deepest forces governing existence, there's no turning back. You become someone who walks with certainty, not because you have guarantees of what will happen, but because you've learned to trust your own path, your own process, your own essence. This trust transcends every challenge, every obstacle, every uncertainty, because now you know, with a certainty that can't be explained, only felt, that everything, absolutely everything, is part of a greater flow. A wisdom operating beyond the mind, beyond control, beyond logic. And this intelligence never makes mistakes, never fails, and never abandons you. In this state, living stops being about surviving, fighting, or resisting. It becomes an act of creation, a constant co-creation, where your thoughts, emotions, and actions become the brushes with which you paint your reality every single day, in every detail. And even when challenges arise, you no longer see them as threats, but as invitations, as signals, as disguised opportunities life offers to help you align even more deeply with who you came here to be. In this space, pain doesn't disappear, but it stops feeling like punishment and becomes a passage. Fear doesn't vanish, but it loses its power to freeze you. Doubt doesn't fully go away, but it shifts into curiosity, openness, and a willingness to live, experience, and trust. And when you look at all this, you realize that this might be one of the greatest truths Carl Jung tried to share, not just in words, but as a call to live fully, consciously, and integrated. Act as if everything is always working out for you. Not because life is perfect, not because everything will go exactly as your mind wants, but because deep down, everything is already happening exactly as it needs to, leading you toward the discovery of who you truly are. And when you live from this place, the impossible becomes probable, the unlikely becomes routine. What once felt like a distant dream slowly reveals itself as your new reality. Because, in the end, life doesn't give you what you want. It gives you exactly what you have the courage to become.